Let's talk more about Sergeant Bo Bergdahl's release and the transfer of 5 detainees from Guantanamo Bay to Qatar, with 2 CNN commentators, Ben Ferguson and Marc Lamont, joining me to share some of their thoughts. Good to see you guys. So, Ben, let me start with you first on this one. The U.S. has been given assurances, they say, that the men exchanged for Bergdahl will not pose a threat to the United States. They won't even be allowed to leave Qatar for a year. Do those assurances offer you any comfort?
Not at all. I mean, these are high-level individuals that were so important that for 5 years, the same men were on the list of what they wanted back in exchange for an American. And this has changed our entire policy, almost 50 years of policy, that we do not negotiate with terrorists. And that's exactly what just happened. And that makes the life of an American around the world skyrocket, and how important it is to Al-Qaeda or anyone else, because we just changed our policy. And these aren't low-level guys. You don't get to Guantanamo Bay by accident. And if the Taliban wants you back and you're on their list, think about how important these guys are, obviously, to the Taliban and what they want to accomplish. And this was a massive victory for them today. And America just gave in to the Taliban and gave their top people back they wanted. That's scary.
Marc, Senator John McCain.
I strongly disagree here.
Okay, I'll share. Let me tell you what Senator John McCain said, and then I'll let you weigh in. He says that he's concerned about these former detainees, and the House Intelligence Committee chairman saying that this deal gives terrorists an incentive to take more American hostages. So why don't you respond to Ben, but also I'd like your reaction to that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is certainly cause for concern. We should be asking questions about the nature of these negotiations. But as we know, we've been negotiating for well over a year on these very points. How many hostages would be released? How many prisoners would be released? What the terms of release would be? Who would be the intermediary in the conversation? This is not something that went along quickly. Clearly, the president, as well as his cabinet, have made very thoughtful decisions about this. I can't wait to get more information, and the American people are entitled to that information. But this is where I disagree with Ben, this was not a victory for the Taliban today. This was a victory for America. This was a victory for a soldier who was a hostage, and it was a victory for his family. And we have to look at it in that way, I think. And also, as our national security advisor said, or expert said just a few minutes ago, this is not a clear-cut case of talking to reimagine who the Taliban are, number one, and number two, we have to move into a place of negotiation and conversation, not merely this sort of hostile, antagonistic engagement that we've had for the last 5 years or 10 years.
But I think the biggest difference is these people are the same people they've been wanting for 5 years, and they wanted them back badly. And so to say that this isn't a victory for the Taliban today, if it wasn't a victory for them, they wouldn't have made the deal. They gave away 1 American for 5 of their top people in their political organization. If that's not the definition of a victory, I don't know what is. A 5-for-1 trade is an incredible deal for 5 guys that were in Guantanamo Bay, in the words of John McCain, have American blood on their hands. And this puts other American people around the world's lives at risk now with Al-Qaeda, with the Taliban, because they know that America now will negotiate. And if you've got another 10 guys or 5 guys you want out, well, if you grab a couple of Americans, are we willing to play ball? Based on what we see today, we absolutely are.
All right, guys.
But that's a
very quickly, Marc.
It's just a very reductive analysis. First of all, only 1 American in Afghanistan was captured, so it's not as if there were 5. We're not the LA Clippers making bad trades here. This was a very different